Hello everyone, this is Christina Marassi and we are going live to, I'm gonna have a sip of water first before we talk about this juicy and scintillating conversation. So tonight we are going to talk about orgasm plus business, my favorite topic at the moment for sure, and we're gonna really discuss what is sex power. Now, that's a phrase that some people might love, some people might have some reaction to, so I'd really love to open up the conversation and see what you guys have to say too. I'd like to share some things and let's see if we can get a dialogue going. So my name is Christina Marassi and I am fascinated about helping women entrepreneurs power up their businesses through orgasm rather than getting burned out and working so hard and feeling sort of dried up and shriveled and in that masculine place so that we can bring more of the feminine in business. So I see some people joining us. Fantastic. So if you guys could chime in, that'd be great. I'd love to see where you are in the world and also if you could share your name in case it's not in your handle, and I will say hi. And looking forward to beginning the conversation. Anyone want to say hi? Get us started? I could wait. It's good to practice visibility. This is something I've always been a big fan of. I know as women, and if we have some men on too, that's awesome. But very often we're afraid to sort of be seen and to step forward and share our voices. And like, we've got to learn how to do that because it's just not going to work for us to hide in the shadows. Ah, someone from Portugal. Hello, Sonia. Thank you for kicking us off. Thank you, bless you woman, for using your voice and showing everyone how it's done. So anyone else too, if you're lurking in the shadows, that's cool, but it's even better to step forward because in some level when you use your voice, you are using some of your sex power and putting it into the space. Let's see, Taryn from San Jose, awesome, welcome. Carol from St. Louis, fantastic. Carol, I've worked with Carol in the past. Nice to have you here, sister. Your name came on and it looked a little familiar, now I know why. So great to have you guys here. Thank you for joining me and I look forward to hearing more from you soon. So a little bit of background. I am a women entrepreneur coach who has been helping, thank you for the hearts, other women entrepreneurs build their businesses and to find their ecstatic brand. So I was really teaching business through energetic principles, which I loved. At the same time, I was always fascinated about like, where does sensuality fit into this mix? You know, I wove that into how I was teaching business. But now I'm just going to turn the ship right towards this conversation of sex and orgasm and business. And is there a place for it as women entrepreneurs, as we're running our businesses and leading our missions and helping our clients? I personally think there is. Anyone else on the scope feel like there's a place for orgasm and sex power in business? And so give me a thumbs up in the comment section because this is different, you know, like I know some of us are really feeling this rising up, that there's something about the feminine and how it wants to show up more in business, but lots of people, it's very edgy. I mean, let's talk about, you know, what sex power is and what it isn't. Ah, Taryn and Carol say absolutely, fantastic. Thanks for chiming in, you guys, and let me know I'm not crazy because I feel like I'm sort of on the edge of bringing this conversation forward. And I know a lot of you are feeling this too. So it's nice to know I'm not alone, so thank you. So for me, you know, sex is so interesting because there's so much shame involved and also distortion really in our culture. We've really lost our way of where sex is like a beautiful, someone said this phrase to me, like skin on skin love. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, really, that's what sex can be, is skin on skin love. And this place of, Kelly just joined. I'm talking about skin on skin love as sex, Kelly. So to me, that was just so beautiful because on some level, it's a place of union where the masculine and the feminine come together to feel pleasure and also to create. Yes, some hearts. Thank you. So, and there's a lot of shame around sex in our culture because it's all underground and people sort of keep it in this private space and then, you know, people aren't comfortable with their own sexuality. More hearts, thank you. We got to change that story, because here's what I'm really discovering for myself is how much of my power is in my sex, if you will. And so sex, I mean, kind of in a metaphoric sense. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. So let's see, I would say that, a lot of people, when they hear sex power, if the shame piece comes up and the distortion piece comes up, they often think it's this manipulative place, where maybe a woman is kind of using her feminine wiles in a way that feels manipulative, wearing a low-cut dress and using the cleavage and trying to gain control and power over other people, which is not what I'm talking about in the slightest. For me, sex power is that place where, it's kind of like a broader term. Before I go to sex power, let me explain my different definition of orgasm. For me, orgasm is really like the life force energy that's just like pumping inside your veins and inside your energy, where it's like you feel so alive and just turned on by life. Like that, to me, is sex power. It's your vitality. It's what animates you. It's what makes you be alive. So to me, that orgasm, which is your life force energy, is your sex power. Now, when you're in that pure state of that, there's no way that can be manipulative. It's just pure power and potency and life force. And for me, I feel like so many of us are a little shut down around that, unfortunately, because some hearts, thank you, thank green hearts. For various reasons, as we were growing up, people didn't encourage our full expression, and they didn't encourage us to feel good. And, we sort of had to be appropriate. And so much of it really just got shut down. So I'm on a mission to help women entrepreneurs open up their sex power, because I think that's where they're really going to kind of have a great time running their businesses. So does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions of what I mean by sex power, or do you want to add to it? I'd be curious to hear. I'm open. I see some hearts. So sounds like someone, green hearts, red, pink hearts, very nice. Yet some yellow hearts. Awesome. Okay. Anything you want to add to the conversation? Because I am fascinated by this topic, but by no means am I the only expert out there, and I'm sure you guys have some wisdom to offer into the conversation as well. Okay, something comes through, let me know. So I want to go for a minute to, again, back to this concept of sex power and how it can power up your business. So many of you, if you're a woman entrepreneur, I'm sure that you work on your wealth consciousness and changing your relationship to money, because unfortunately we've all had so many outdated belief systems around money growing up, and so we need to really rewrite those. And so it's good for us to be reading books on wealth consciousness. So a seminal book on wealth consciousness is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Now, in that book, there is a whole chapter on sex power. Did you know that? Chapter 11. I've heard lots of people be like, I see hearts, you knew. That chapter 11, it's about sex power, but what does it mean? A lot of people aren't so sure what to do with that. Well, I did some research. I figured I had to dive in to chapter 11. It was amazing. Napoleon Hill wrote this book in the 1920s, and he was literally talking about sex power. And he was talking about how these very wealthy men like Andrew Carnegie and maybe even Henry Ford, people who had created great wealth, that they all had a high sex drive, and that they had found ways to harness that, and it elevated them to genius, and it helped them with their wealth gathering. So don't you think that's kind of interesting? A book about wealth consciousness, talking about people who've made a shit ton of money, and they're talking about sex power and how to utilize that. And yet, why aren't we talking about that all the time in business right now? So that's where I get very excited. And I did see Anastasia Nitri join. Hi, sister. She's one of my colleagues who helps people find their badass miracles. So, hi, girl. Nice to have you here. Thanks for jumping in. So we're talking about sex power and what that's all about and what it looks like and what it isn't. So let's think about this. If you're a woman entrepreneur and you're running your own business, here's what it looks like if you're not opened in your sex power and using it in your business. Great to have you here too, Anastasia. Okay, so you wake up, you're a little bit dreading getting to work. You cringe when you get to your inbox. You love working with your clients, but it's just I have to do more work. you're feeling a little bit dried up, kind of shriveled up. You're sort of in your masculine. You're having to hustle. You're having to like put all this energy into things. It doesn't feel like anything moves well. You're having adrenal fatigue. Like your health isn't well. Let's see. I know this. I've been in this place, so I know this place well. And I see a lot of people. I mean, I know so many people with adrenal fatigue right now. And there's a burnout place that's happening. That is not using your sex power in business. Not in the slightest. And so we're all gonna like totally burn out, ladies, if we don't figure out a different way of how to do this. And we have to decide that we need to change the story. You know, that's what I'm doing in my business. I created all this success that was amazing and created a machine of a business, and I loved what I was doing. I was deeply on purpose, lots of hearts, thank you. But at the same time, there was some joy missing. And I just knew that there was something that needed to shift. Taryn says, yes. I like the extra S's. And so I knew something needed to shift. And I don't regret anything that I did. It was all beautiful, but when it was time to shift, it was time to shift. And I knew I needed to make some big major changes. And I knew there was a next level body of work coming through. And it's what we're co-creating together today about orgasm and business. So let's talk about the alternative of what sex power does look like if you're using it in your business. Well, let's see. I gotta change. I gotta bring that in. Because there's that place where, you know, that outward going energy can get a little bit young, not necessarily masculine, but, you know, there's a little bit of a force to it. So I just want to kind of slow down and get into that languid space. So when you are open in your sex power and you're using it in business, you wake up leisurely and you know it's going to be an amazing day and you're looking forward to all the work you have to do, and you know you're tapping into where your desires are for the day, and you're listening to your pleasure. You're tapping into that, maybe even some self-pleasure in the morning to get connected to that. And you've got practices that help you to open up to the divine and get you connected to your body. And you consciously create your day. And you know that you have a hand in how it's going to go. And you feel like you're in your flow and you know the next step to take. And then you might pause and listen in. And then you go the next step, you know the next step to take. And you do that. And there's an amount of trust and an amount of faith. And you're always listening for am I in my truth here? Is there more kind of expression that wants to come through me? Is my creativity being tapped into? And how can I innovate here? So, which one of those is more attractive to you? Not using the sex power in business or using the sex power in business? What you got to say, my peeps? I'd love to hear what you'd like to offer in. And was there anything that you felt when I did the second one, talking about sex power? I want to hear you guys use your voices if there's anything to share. If you want to add to the conversation too, or maybe share where you're at in your business, if you're using sex power or not using sex power. If you're brave enough, I know that would be a little vulnerable. I see the hearts, thank you. I would like some comments though. I don't want to just be talking out into a void, peeps. I'd love for this to be two-way, so what you got? I'm gonna drink some water while I wait. Tammy says, I agree. Fantastic. Can you tell me what you agree with, though? Anastasia says, I love that. It's so true. But what part? What's so true? Tell me. I'm really fascinated by how this can be a conversation. You know, I feel like I'm helping to birth something. Oh, Anastasia, getting turned on. Thank you. That's what I needed to hear. Okay, so it's so true that we do need to get turned on. Because I know, has anyone had the experience when they're in their business, the movement and connection part? Awesome. Okay, so that's what Tammy liked, was the movement and connection part. Thank you. So has anyone had the experience where they're sharing something in their business and it's just not going well? And maybe it's because you don't feel that turned on and you're not quite in your flow? I've had that. It's been fascinating. It's so interesting because there's a place where you feel like, well, I should do this and I have things to offer and people need this help. And this is for instance, I was helping people with business coaching and again, in an ecstatic way, which I loved. but some of the joy had gone out of it, or talking about it. I actually still love doing the work, to be honest, but I didn't love talking about it and marketing speaker on it. Carol says that it's not the mental part guiding, embodied responses. Yes, beautiful. Thanks, sister. So I think there is an even bigger calling than currently, seeing. Tammy, thank you. Yeah, there's an even bigger calling, I think, for all of us. And you know what? Our human brain can't think that big. So we need to be tapped into our feminine pleasure, because on some level, that's where our power is. Like, you don't want kinked hoses, of like where your power can't quite flow. And all of us have some crossed wires and kinked hoses. But something happens when you do take the time to put some attention on your sex power and your turn on and your pleasure and your desires. Like, things start to open up and you do get into your flow. And that's what I want to help people do. Now, it's going to be an interesting road, because it's kind of people love kind of getting into their feminine and doing pleasure and desire. So that's cool. That's out there already. But connected to business, I haven't seen a lot of it. So I'm kind of curious to see if people are going to even know that it can help them. Are they going to like wonder about the ROI and, the results that they want, or return on investment? Or are they going to be open to a newer way of doing business? What do you guys think? You think I'm going to have to do a lot of education, or do you think people are ready? I'm curious. I've been doing some target market research in the past couple of weeks and talking to colleagues and finding out what their concerns are so that I can really hear, because obviously I want to be of service. I want to follow my artistic soul, but I also want to be of service. I did see some hearts, so thank you. Anything else? If you have any questions too about this topic, I know I'm just sort of starting to share about sex power and things like that. Carol says, personally, I feel people are ready as it's internally guided. Ah, thank you. Anastasia says, I keep trying to send stuff. Girl, keep trying. Hang on. There's hearts. Thank you. Thank you for the hearts. Do I need to explain sex power more, or are there questions? Because I do, again, this is a new topic for me. So I, was helping people around business, and now I'm excited to help them around sex power. So what I was sharing was that as I was shifting niches, I had this great business around helping people with business coaching, and then the joy went out, so I knew it needed to shift. So that's an interesting place to be in. Anastasia knows about this. For the past year, we've both been in that place of changing niches, knowing something new was coming through, but it's like, holy shit, what happens in the meantime? There's obviously a business that needs to keep going. Anastasia says, I follow my turn on, and it's led to my biggest breakthroughs ever. I think as you talk about it, your magnetic yoni, yes, and magnetic yoni. That's good. We'll draw them in. Yes, totally. So this is what's happened for me. So over the last years, I've been in between. I have been waiting for the new work to come through, which I thought was about sensuality, but I wasn't sure. Anastasia says, keep sharing. Thanks, sister. But in the meantime, I was continuing to offer business coaching, because that's what I knew how to do, and I knew people needed it. And I did get clients, but to be honest, it felt a little, there was no flow. I didn't have the same results as I used to have. It was a little more effortful, if you will. But I didn't know what the new work was. So I didn't know how to offer the new work. And so what I got is, now as I'm finally shifting, I saw at some point that I needed to let go of talking about the old work and just let it go and trust. It's kind of, I remember Lisa Sasevich would talk about two trapezes, right? So if they're trapezes. So you're on one trapeze, you gotta let go of that trapeze, fly through air to grab onto the next trapeze. But that's a little terrifying. You don't know if you're gonna get that next trapeze. So I've been in that in-between space. So I decided to let go of talking about business coaching and to start talking about what I was turned on and passionate about, which was orgasm in business. And so fascinatingly, let's see, Carol says, you may have to define what you mean by sex power for some. Love magnetic yoni. Yes. I'll come right back to that. So, what happened for me is that as I've been talking about business and orgasm, and I did an interview on the 7-figure orgasm, and all this great stuff happened, these clients were coming out of the woodwork and asking me for private coaching. And I wasn't talking about it at all. I was getting emails from my website, through Facebook messages. They were seeing me like in the most random ways, like as testimonials on other people's sites. It was fantastic. Anastasia says, I feel that as you shine, the right people find you. Totally. Totally. And this is the power of turn on. Like if we're not in that space of turn on, we're like this dim light bulb. Nobody finds us, and we're just not in our flow in that space. So that's what I've been learning. Is I've been accessing more of my sex power and finding the turn on and talking about what I want to talk about. Then the clients are showing up, and I am not doing anything for it. So that's what sounds good to me. So if you just joined us, we're talking about sex power. And for me, it's that place. It is that place of your sex, like in your genitals, certainly. But it's more like, think about what your genitals do. Like they create a life. So imagine the power we have inside of us that learns how to create life. Like that's our sex power. It's our life force. It's our vitality. And so I want to look for ways of how we can use that in business. So what I'm developing is a whole new body of work and a new program and course of how do you tap into your sex power? Okay, so we're talking about what it is, but then how do you tap into it? So we're going to continue that conversation over the course of the next couple of days. This is a series. Today we're talking about sex power. We're also going to talk about turn on, and I want to talk about the difference between masculine and feminine orgasm. This series is all about, let's talk about business and orgasm. And so what I'm finding is, the tools of almost like, let's say the license to operate heavy machinery of your sex power is utilizing desire, utilizing pleasure, utilizing like places. Anastasia says she lost me. Are you back though? Utilizing those places where you feel pleasure. I mean, and it can be specific, like utilizing your actual sex, possibly with a partner, and finding ways that can fill you up and make you juicy so that you can use that in your business. It could be doing self-pleasure as a way of bringing on your feeling good feelings, and how you could use that in your business. I have a colleague who says that she self-pleasures before she goes on stage, which I think is awesome. I do a practice called orgasmic meditation, and I've met a colleague. I haven't been speaking on stage much, but when I do, I will definitely own, for short, orgasmic meditation before I go on stage. So we want to find ways to be tapping into that life force vitality, and it can support our businesses. I swear, I totally swear. So I want to kind of complete in the next few minutes, but if anyone has any questions or if you want to add anything, please do. This will be a series. I'm going to do them over the course of the next couple of days because I want to just kind of like tease apart what is this sex power piece. I read this on a different scope, but I'm going to read it again. I talked earlier about Napoleon Hill, and he wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich, and there's a whole chapter on sex, chapter 11. And so again, if you have any questions, chime in. If you want to add to this conversation, please do, and then we'll finish up shortly. So he says, fortunate indeed is the person who has discovered how to give sex emotion an outlet through some form of creative effort, for he has, by that discovery, lifted himself to the status of a genius. When driven by this desire, men develop keenness of imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times. When harnessed and redirected along other lines, meaning like their sex power, this motivating force maintains all of its attributes of keenness of imagination, courage, etc., which may be used as powerful creative forces in literature, art, or in any other profession or calling, including, of course, the accumulation of riches. Sex desire is the most powerful of human desires. How hot is that? Napoleon Hill, like decades and decades and decades ago, writing that. So these people know, successful people know about, got some hearts, thank you. More hearts around Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich. I mean, that's so cool, don't you think? Thank you, hearts. Chocolate hearts. So, all right. You guys, thank you for joining me tonight. We're going to continue this conversation. I know, like, literally, I'm birthing this body of work as we speak. So that's why I love having you guys here. And I do want your input because I can't do this alone. This is a big ass mission. Thank you for all the hearts. So I'd love for you to keep showing up. We'll keep talking about orgasm and business, and we'll keep pulling apart different topics around this. And again, I want it to be a conversation. So please keep joining in, and lots of hearts. Thank you, blue hearts. And I am so appreciative that you took some time out to join me. And I look forward to the next time we talk. I don't know if I'll do one tomorrow, but I think on Thursday I will, and maybe on Friday too. And let's see if we can keep deepening as we go together. Anastasia, give me a smiley face. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for joining in, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.